Okay, so a lot of albums dropped this past week. Oh my god, a lot of good music. A lot of good music dropped, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today on the Stoner Score, all right? And if you're new to the Stoner Score, of course, let me go over the 10 criteria that make up for the Stoner Score, all right? So number 1 is artwork, number 2 is title, intro, beat selection, the use of features, less than 30% skip on first listen, the content, are you saying something, the replay value, does this album transcend time, is it going to be looked back upon as a classic, and number 10 is satisfaction guaranteed. Are the streets satisfied with this album? All right. So today, we're going to be starting off with Kevin Gates' brand new album called Only the Generals Part 2. Only the Generals Part 2. Okay. Now, let me give a quick, before I go over the score, let me give a quick preview of not a preview, but a quick review. You know what I do here. So, at first, right? At first, the album in the top was a little dry. It had some skippable hooks. Like Kevin Gates could rap his ass off, but some of the hooks be like big stepper. That's a no go. That's a no go. So at first, when I was listening to it, I was like, ah no. But then he buried the better songs down below from 9. So I think if he reordered it, like the first song, the intro was pretty damn good, but 9, 10, 11, 12, those are where was that. Those are at the back. And number 12, oh man, he revealed something. So I will be going over the Stoner Score, and I'm going to tell you exactly how it fit in on this. All right. So the album was good. It was a little dry with some hooks in the middle, but he rounded it off perfectly. So let me go over this Stoner Score real quick. So number 1 is artwork. Let me review the artwork right now. Yeah, it's a go. The artwork is a go. Now, I'm not going to say too much because, almost all album covers have naked men on them. So I'm not going to be... Would I be gay if I said this? This is a nice album artwork, G. Yeah, I wouldn't. But number 2 is title. Only the Generals Part 2. And you know I am when it comes to title. If you have more than one of the same series, you kind of almost get that. And Only the Generals is a good title anyways. So title is another check. The intro, yes, Lord. Yes. That it was a nice turn up intro to his whole album. I really liked it. It garnered a lot of replays. Like the way it just jumped right into it. Yes, yeah. I see that. So it prepared me for the vibe of this whole album. All right. So number 4 is beat selection. Of course, beat selection is a go. All his beats, they flow through perfectly. I wasn't tired. I wasn't bored. There's some albums where the beats just like feels like they're just searching it off YouTube and just doing a Pooh Shiesty type beat kind of Google search. But these beats flow through perfectly and they worked. All right. So less than 30% skip on first listen. I could give him that. Although, like like I was said earlier, some of the hooks were like the plug for the cartel. Come on. The shooter of the cartel. Come on. Big stepper. Stop playing. Like a lot of the hooks were just not really that good, but his rapping are great. In the middle, the hooks were just not like I was turned off with a lot of the hooks, like from number 2 down to like number 5. I'm just making up numbers, but started off the second one. Then he has a lot of. He's talking about a lot of cards. I'll talk about that later. All right, so I would say I didn't have to skip them, although they did almost got to the point of me having to skip them, but I didn't skip them. So less than 30% skip on first listen. It's a check. The use of features, yes. There wasn't too many features on this, and he used them very, very well. So use of features is a go. The content. Here is where it's at. The content. Is he saying something? You know how rappers don't usually say much? There's like 2 sides of this album. Like, he's talking about being in the cartel, shooter for the cartel. Like, alright, sure. I ain't trying to listen to all that. And so that's one side. Like, if that's all he talked about this album, I would say, nah, he's not talking about anything. You know what rappers do. You know, all the rappers know El Chapo for some reason. I don't know. All of them know him personally. So, usually, if that's all he talked about this album, I'll say I'll write it off. But I don't know of any rapper that would admit on his own song that he was molested. Right? That he gave us something. It told us something new about him in this album. If you're in the Hive, you probably already know this. If you listen to his album, I mean, you probably do. But as a casual listener, I did not personally know this. I did not know this. So he did reveal something about himself that is not, when a rapper, I put it like this: a rapper, when they say something that prompts a whole interview segment about, that's saying something. That is saying something. He said a lot on this. In the first, it kind of, like the way he placed it in the beginning, the first song, he kind of hinted at telling his nephews that, he or his son or his children, that he got molested by his uncle or some shit like that. Oh, no, he didn't say it. He didn't say it. I'm off the platinum right now. It's the Rollingxy podcast, so you know what it is. He didn't really say. He hinted at it at first. Then when you get all the way at the end, the outro, I believe it's the outro, right? Then he tells you that he was molested as a child. That's saying a lot. He was being vulnerable, and not like that caliber of rappers don't usually do that. They usually, the facade, I'm the plug, El Chapo's my mans, So they don't usually be this vulnerable, and he was doing that in this album. So he has content. He check. Replay value. Like, I put this as, maybe if you have 3 songs in your album that garners a lot of replay over and over again. For me, it has to be for me, not like high, because usually in an album, the songs I like are not usually what's the most popular song. Like, I'm sure "Wishing Morocco," the song I played earlier, is not gonna be the most radio played song on the album. But for me personally, it did have 3 that I'm gonna replay over and over and over again. It definitely did. The Yes Law, the Morocco, the last one. Yeah, it had at least 3. I could right off the top. Like, now, if I don't have to think about it and it comes right off the top, that I could just name them, it gets a check on that. So it does have a lot of songs in this album that has a lot of replay value. Does this album transcend time, though? Is it gonna be looked upon as a classic? This is where it gets tough. That those songs that I spoke about earlier that had really no meaning, the hooks were just, typical rapper hooks. That's gonna hurt this one from being a classic. So no, it will not transcend time. Although he did reveal something very big, but as a whole in the project, it does not transcend. Those 4 or 5 songs kind of cut it off from that. All right, so is the streets satisfied? Is satisfaction guaranteed on this album? Most definitely, especially if you're a fan, if you love Kevin Gates. I was about to say Kevin Gates. If you love Kevin Gates, you're definitely gonna love to find out a new piece of information about him, about your idol that you didn't know before. He was vulnerable, and that's very big. So the streets are satisfied, and the other streets who, like songs about plugs and El Chapo, and I kind of do. I ain't gonna lie, I kind of do, but I not in abundance. I kind of do, but to those, they are satisfied with this because he had a lot of those big steppers. He had a lot of those songs on this album. So the streets are definitely satisfied with this album. So out of a 10, Kevin Gates, Only the Generals Part 2 gets about a 9 out of a 10 on the Stoner Score, ladies and gentlemen. A 9 out of a 10 on the Stoner Score. All right.